Hello, and welcome to another session in Hellgate Gas Products training series. Today we're going to talk about something that can be uncomfortable, but is absolutely essential to great teamwork and leadership: delivering difficult feedback. Our goal is to walk away with tools that make these conversations easier, more respectful, and more productive. Our agenda includes why feedback feels hard, principles of effective feedback, a simple proven model you can use, practice and examples, and a challenge to apply it in real life. Imagine this. You're working with someone you usually get along with really well, but today they said something that felt rude and disrespectful. What do you do? Do you say something to them? Do you let it go? What if it happens again? What if it keeps happening? At some point, you probably start wondering, is it time to give them some feedback? And let's be real. Most people avoid giving tough feedback. Raise your hand if you've ever avoided feedback and regretted it later. So why do we do this? Well, some people worry about saying it the wrong way. Others don't want to damage a relationship. And still others are afraid the other person will get defensive. But here's the thing. Avoiding feedback doesn't make the problem go away. It can create confusion, resentment, and it can lead to performance issues that only get worse over time. Let's discuss a situation that could very easily happen in one of our offices. A supervisor noticed that one of their team members kept cutting people off during meetings. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal, but over time, the rest of the team started holding back ideas and engagement dropped. The supervisor didn't want to make it awkward or seem critical, so they stayed quiet. Eventually, a key team member asks to switch teams. And when they left, they mentioned the interruptions were part of the reason. In this case, a simple, timely conversation could have prevented that. Let's talk about what happens when we don't give feedback. I want you to think about a time when something bothered you. Maybe a pattern of behavior from a coworker or a teammate, and you never addressed it. What happened? There could be some real consequences of avoiding feedback. Performance issues can continue or worsen. When we don't speak up, people often don't know there's a problem. What might be obvious to us may not be obvious to them. So the behavior keeps happening, sometimes unintentionally. And the issue doesn't get better. In fact, it usually escalates. Sometimes team morale suffers. People notice when expectations aren't being met and nothing is done about it. If one person is underperforming or behaving poorly and no one addresses it, others may start to feel frustrated or resentful, and the team could begin to question leadership or even each other. Sometimes trust erodes over time. Relationships are built on honesty. When we withhold feedback, especially when it's important, it chips away at trust. The other person might not know what's wrong, but they can feel the tension. Over time, that creates distance. And sometimes resentment builds, not just for the person receiving feedback, but for us too. When we bite our tongue too many times, the frustration has nowhere to go, and eventually it leaks out in other ways, like passive-aggressive behavior or emotional reactions. Can anyone relate to this? Maybe you've seen what happens when something isn't addressed. And here's the kicker. Sometimes we think we're being nice by not giving feedback, but what we're really doing is avoiding discomfort. And in the process, we're allowing something small to become something much harder to fix later. So the goal of this training isn't just to help you give feedback more effectively, it's to help you see it as a responsibility. Giving clear, honest, respectful feedback is actually a gift. It's how we help each other get better. Now that we've looked at the why, let's shift to the how, starting with preparation. One of the biggest mistakes people make with difficult feedback is just winging it. These conversations deserve a little planning. Here are some guiding questions to ask yourself before you even open your mouth. 1, what outcome do I want from this conversation? Ask yourself, is my goal to help them grow, improve a specific behavior, strengthen our relationship? It's easy to get caught up in frustration, but you need to be clear on what you want to accomplish, not just what you want to say. And here's a tip. If the goal is to vent, pause. If the goal is to help, proceed. 2, am I in the right mindset? Be honest, are you calm or are you emotionally charged? If you're feeling irritated or reactive, it's probably not the right moment. Take a step back, gather your thoughts, and come at it with a mindset of care and curiosity. This mindset shift from judgment to support completely changes how the feedback lands. 3, what's the best time and place to bring this up? Feedback should be private and respectful. Don't bring it up in passing or in front of others. Choose a time when neither you or them is rushed, and the other person can actually hear and process what you're saying. For example, after a big meeting may not be the best time if emotions are high or the person is already overwhelmed. 4, what assumptions am I making? We often fill in the blanks. They must not care, or they're being difficult on purpose. But what if there's something we don't know? Maybe there's a personal situation, a misunderstanding, or a lack of clarity on expectations. Preparation isn't just about your words, it's also about checking your biases and staying open-minded. Take 30 seconds. Think of a real feedback conversation you've been avoiding. What's one thing you'd need to consider before having it? Take some time to reflect or invite someone in your training group to share. A little preparation makes a big difference. Feedback doesn't have to be perfect, but being intentional helps you avoid surprises. It helps you stay grounded, and it helps make the conversation more productive. Let's talk about the 4 core principles to keep in mind when delivering tough feedback. 1, focus on behavior, not personality. Stick to what the person did, not who they are. This keeps the conversation constructive and prevents it from feeling like a personal attack. 2, be specific. Vague feedback like, "You're being difficult," isn't helpful. Instead, say something like, "In yesterday's meeting, you interrupted 3 times while others were speaking." 3, give feedback as close to the event as possible. The sooner you address it, the fresher it is in everyone's mind and the more meaningful it is. Fourth, deliver it with respect and clarity, not anger or sarcasm. How you say it matters just as much as what you say. A calm, clear tone helps the other person actually hear you instead of getting defensive. And before you give feedback, always ask yourself, why am I giving this feedback? And maybe even ask yourself, what do I hope will change or improve because of it? Let's say you prepared your message, you're clear on your intention, and you know what behavior you need to address. Now comes the tricky part, actually delivering the feedback. And here's the truth. How you say it matters just as much as what you say. You can have a perfectly worded message, but if your delivery is tense, sarcastic, or defensive, it won't land well. So let's talk about some key delivery tips. Your tone. You want your tone to be calm and supportive. Your tone sets the emotional temperature of the conversation. Even if your words are polite, a sharp or cold tone can make someone feel attacked. Try to speak in a steady, even tone that communicates, I care enough to be honest, and I'm here to support you. Think about the tone you'd want someone to use with you if the roles were reversed. Timing. Not in the heat of the moment. Avoid giving feedback when you're emotionally charged or when they are. When emotions are high, logic is low. Instead, wait until you've had a chance to cool down and they're in a place to listen. Even a 30-minute pause can make the difference between a fight and a real conversation. Think about your environment. You want a private, distraction-free environment. Never give difficult feedback in public. It embarrasses the person and shuts down trust immediately. Also, don't bring it up casually while walking down a hallway or when the other person is distracted. Pick a time and space where they can focus and feel safe. Privacy shows respect. It also increases the chance they'll be open to hearing you out. Think about your body language. You want to be open and non-confrontational. Your posture, your facial expressions, and gestures say a lot, even when you're not speaking. Avoid crossing your arms, rolling your eyes, or leaning in aggressively. Instead, sit or stand in a relaxed but attentive posture. Make eye contact and nod to show you're listening. You want to aim to create a we're in this together vibe, not a power struggle. Think about your words. Use I statements, not accusations. Say things like, I noticed, or I was affected by, instead of you always, or you never. This keeps the focus on what you observed and how it affected you or the team, rather than putting the other person on the defensive. Remember, it's not about blaming, it's about helping. It's not just about delivering feedback. It's about delivering it in a way that's receivable. Tone, timing, setting, and empathy make all the difference. And when people feel safe and respected, they're far more likely to actually hear what you're saying and do something with it. We often think of feedback as criticism, but it's actually a tool for growth. When the goal is to help someone improve, not to judge or shame them, it becomes much easier to start the conversation. So we need to shift our mindset. Don't think of it as calling someone out. Think of it as calling them up to a higher standard. Think of feedback like a GPS. When you take a wrong turn, your GPS doesn't yell at you or question your driving skills. It calmly says, recalculating, and then it gives you a better route. That's what good feedback does. It's not about punishment. It's about realignment. It's about helping someone get back on track so they can reach their destination more effectively. In the end, feedback is about helping, not hurting. Think of it as an investment in the person, an investment in your team and the work you do together. The SBI model is a simple 3-step approach for giving clear, respectful, and actionable feedback. It stands for situation, when and where did it happen, behavior, what did the person say or do, and impact, what was the result or effect. This model helps you focus on what happened and why it matters, reducing defensiveness and increasing understanding. It's straightforward, effective, and keeps the conversation productive. Remember that delivery matters. Your tone, your body language, and even the setting. Remember that you want to keep these conversations private, calm, and curious, rather than public, rushed, and reactive. So why do we want to use the SBI model? Well, it reduces blame and emotion. By focusing on facts instead of feelings, the conversation stays calm and objective. It also makes feedback easier to hear and easier to act on. Clear, structured feedback helps the other person understand exactly what happened and why it matters. And it encourages growth and open communication. When feedback feels fair and respectful, people are more likely to listen, learn, and improve. Step 1, situation. Describe the context clearly and specifically. When and where did it happen? You want to avoid vague references like last week or you always. Being specific helps the other person understand exactly what moment you're referring to. So you want to try something like, in yesterday's team meeting, etc., rather than you always. Stick to facts and set the scene. It's the foundation for effective feedback. Step 2, behavior. Describe what the person actually said or did. Be objective. Focus on actions, not assumptions about motives or intentions. Try, you interrupted Maria twice, rather than, you were being rude. Sticking to observable behaviors helps keep the feedback factual and avoids making it personal. Step 3, impact. Explain the effect the behavior had. What was the result or the outcome? How did it affect you, others, or the team? So try, it made it difficult for the group to understand her idea, and I noticed she looked frustrated. Rather than, you caused a lot of problems. Describing the impact shows the consequences of the behavior, making the feedback more meaningful and actionable. So here's the SBI model in action. During yesterday's team meeting, the situation, you interrupted Maria twice while she was presenting behavior, and it made it difficult for the rest of us to follow her idea. She also seemed discouraged afterward. Impact. Let the model do the hard work. Focus on what happened, not why it happened. This keeps the feedback clear, objective, and easier to act on. In addition to the basic situation, behavior, and impact SBI model, the advanced version includes step 4, alternative behavior. You can offer a suggestion for what the person could do differently in the future. This provides a clear path forward. Step 5, alternative impact. Describe the positive outcome that could result from the alternative behavior. This helps the person understand the benefits of making a change. By adding these steps, you not only highlight areas for improvement, but also empower the person with actionable solutions and show how their growth will benefit the team. Here's a structure you can use in almost any situation. 1. Start with purpose. Can I share something that might help us work better together? 2. Give the SBI. When situation, I noticed behavior, it had impact. Can we talk about how to move forward? 3. Invite dialogue. What are your thoughts on that? Some additional options might be ask for their perspective and then offer support. But the important thing is to make it a conversation, not a lecture. This approach opens the door for collaboration and mutual understanding. Let's walk through a side-by-side comparison. Here we have two versions of the same feedback, one poorly delivered and one well done. So what's the difference? Well, the bad version, you need to stop being so negative, it's dragging the team down. This version is vague, it's personal, and it focuses on the person's attitude rather than specific actions. The better version, in this morning's huddle, you said the project would probably fail. That discouraged the team and a few people shut down. This version is clear. It's focused on the specific behavior and explains the impact on the team. Take 2 minutes to practice what you just learned. Rewrite this vague feedback using the SBI model. You're not pulling your weight. In doing so, think, what's the situation? What's the behavior? What's the impact? Pause this presentation for 2 minutes to rewrite this feedback. And if you're in a group setting, take some time to share what you come up with. Discuss the changes you made and how you use the SBI model to improve clarity and focus. All right, so you've prepared, you've followed the SBI model, you've delivered your feedback with respect and clarity, but here's the reality. Even when you do everything right, some people won't take it well. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means they weren't ready or the feedback hit a nerve. So let's talk about what to do if the conversation doesn't go as planned. First, stay calm and don't mirror their emotion. If the other person gets defensive, emotional, or angry, your job is to stay grounded. Don't match their energy or try to win. The more reactive you get, the less effective the conversation becomes. Think of yourself as the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the temperature. You might say something like, I can see this is upsetting. That's not my intention. Let's take a breath and come back to what's really going on. Second, clarify your intention. Sometimes people assume feedback is coming from a place of judgment or frustration, especially if they've had a bad experience in the past. So it helps to remind them, I'm bringing this up because I care about our work and our relationship. I want us to succeed. This isn't about criticizing you, it's about helping us move forward. Recentering your purpose can take the edge off the moment. Third, ask a question to invite dialogue. Instead of continuing to explain yourself or defend the feedback, try inviting the other person into the conversation. Say something like, what's your perspective on this? Or, help me understand where you're coming from. This shifts the tone from confrontation to collaboration. It helps them feel heard, even if they don't fully agree. Fourth, pause and revisit if needed. Sometimes, no matter what you do, emotions are too high in the moment, and that's okay. You can say, it seems like this conversation isn't productive right now. Let's take a break and pick it back up tomorrow when we've both had a chance to think. Stepping away doesn't mean avoiding. It means allowing space so you can come back to it with clarity. Have you ever had a feedback conversation go off the rails? What helped you get it back on track? Or what do you wish you'd done differently? Difficult feedback conversations are just that, difficult. But how we respond when things get bumpy matters. You're not responsible for someone else's reaction, but you are responsible for staying kind, calm, and clear. Even when it gets uncomfortable, remember the goal is growth, not perfection. And sometimes the most uncomfortable conversations are the ones that lead to the most meaningful change. So what are our key takeaways today? Well, feedback is about helping, not blaming. We want to focus on growth and improvement, not fault. And the SBI model gives you a structure that keeps feedback clear, respectful, and actionable. And being clear is kind. Avoid the feedback sandwich. People see through it. Be direct, but respectful. So I challenge you to try using the SBI model in your next feedback conversation. Keep it specific, keep it focused on behavior, and aim for a positive outcome. Let's make feedback a tool for growth, not just correction. Now that we've explored delivering difficult feedback, it's time to focus on the other side, accepting it. In the next session, we'll discuss how to receive feedback, especially when it's tough, and how to use it as an opportunity for growth. Stay tuned for practical tips and strategies to handle feedback with grace and turn it into a tool for improvement.